Welcome back, folks. Today, we're back with another episode of Dynasty Trade Titans. We've got Mike on from Victory Formation today. We could not be more thrilled to have another special guest in the YouTube community. If you haven't already, go ahead and click the link in the description and check Mike out over at Victory Formation. He's helping you win plenty of Dynasty Championships. But speaking of winning Dynasty Championships, let's dive right on into the first trade on the screen. As you guys can see here, submitted from the Discord, we've got a 10-team Superflex start 10. You've got Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Kyren Williams on one side of the trade, moving for Jackson Smith and Jigba and Nico Collins. And man, have we seen a massive rise in that JSN stock this offseason. Mike, where are we at here? Is this an overpay for JSN?
I think it is, 10 teams start 10, and I usually preach, you got to get those stud pieces. There's 100 players being started each and every week. You want the guys that are finishing in the top 50 each and every week. That being said, all these players kind of fall into that category.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go the Justin Jefferson side, St. Brown and Kyren. I just think you can make the argument that Jefferson and JSN should maybe be in the same tier. I know we kind of play what happened, recency bias. What happened last year? JSN was awesome. Before last season, Justin Jefferson was at worst wide receiver 2 to everyone. Not just me, not just you. Like literally everyone was like at worst, he's a wide receiver 2. So I'm going to go that side. I just think, again, even if you don't have them in the same tier, the difference between St. Brown and Kyren for Nico, to me, is huge. Kyren is one of the most slept upon fantasy assets, in my opinion. So I'm going Jefferson side.
No, I'm glad you said that because, speaking to the Dynasty community right now and just what you and I are witnessing, I'm sure across our different league economies and all that, I've been noticing the same thing with Kyren Williams. This man has been slept on, and he's fallen. I've been doing a lot of startup drafts. I've seen him fall to the 5th round, sometimes as early as the early 6th round. I find that shocking. I mean, when you talk about a consistent player out here, he's giving you 3 top 10 finishes in a row at the running back position. That's very rarefied air, and not to mention, we've got the high-powered Sean McVay offense. Matt Stafford's going to come back. They just made it to an NFC championship. I know some people got squeamish on the Blake Corum usage, but tell me honestly, are you viewing Blake Corum as a threat to Kyren Williams' production?
No, and if you even go back and look, I think it was right around week 7 where Corum started to get, I think he had his first double-digit carry week. Mm-hmm. From that point on, Kyren was still a top 12 running back in both total points and points per game. So, you're literally on one of the best offenses. He's still pretty young for the position. We know he's going to be on the Rams the next 2 seasons at least. You mentioned the top 10 finishes 3 straight years. I think only Bijan and Derrick Henry are the only other 2 running backs who have done that. Maybe James Cook snuck in there in top 10. But it's literally like Kyren, Bijan, and Derrick Henry. And I don't understand the hate for Kyren. Is it because he was a 5th round pick? Is it because he did nothing his first year? Maybe all that plays into it. But yeah, I think I think the side for Justin Jefferson, is just too good. St. Brown is
St. Brown. Yeah, exactly. That's the main piece in this trade that when you're breaking it down, I'm like, this is the winning piece for me in this trade. I think when we talk about guys like Kyren Williams, I know my channel knows me well over here and some of my hot takes, but I'm taking Amon-Ra before I even take Justin Jefferson, and that's not just recency bias. It's just that you've got wide receiver 3 straight years in a row finish. And even above guys like Jamar Chase, which I know is going to come off crazy, you're swinging kind of boom bust there. And I know bust is a loose word when we talk about Chase. He's still going to give you, 240 points minimum, even if he gets injured for a few games. But it's exactly what you're getting out of Amon-Ra every single year. They change offensive coordinators. It doesn't matter. They bring in Jameson Williams. They extend him. It doesn't matter. They bring in Sam Laporte. He finishes tight end number 1. It doesn't matter. You got 2-headed monster, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. I digress, right? It doesn't matter. So you know what you're getting out of both those pieces. I think the Jay Jettis is the extra sweetener here. And I know we love buying the young guys, but this is a smash, in my opinion.
Yeah. Real quick before we move on, Nico Collins, because I feel like going into last year, Nico Collins was kind of viewed upon as potential elite receiver that's not
Yep,
at elite receiver price, right?
totally.
And obviously that's changed.
Hmm.
He's I think he's turning 27 here soon, or maybe he
Yeah,
just
he
did.
is 27. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so he's still relatively young, but I don't think he's not viewed that way anymore, right? That
Well,
potential elite receiver.
I
Could
agree,
he
but
still?
this is the interesting thing with Nico Collins. That's why I'm glad you brought it up. I wanted to ask you about your opinion on him or what you're seeing in your leagues, right? Because what I've noticed about Nico this offseason that I've found very interesting, right, is that
Mhm.
his price has dropped significantly, in my opinion, right? And sure, every league economy is going to be different. Things are going to fluctuate. This is going to sound crazy. I've done 4 Dynasty startups this offseason so far. In one of them, I got Nico Collins. Like, I was punting wide receiver just right out the gate. It was a heavy tight end premium league. So I went, tight end in the first round, running back in the second round, another tight end in the third round because it's a start 2 tight end premium league. Wanted to get Warren and Bowers and just lock myself up. And then I was like, you know what? I can figure this out as I go. Nico Collins fell to me at the 4-8 in a startup draft. And that's crazy because I never watched him fall out of the second round. Now, again, I'm in the middle of a startup this week, degenerate status over here, but Nico Collins goes, at the 2-5. So there he back is in the second round. But I find it interesting, right? Because you're talking about this. I'm assuming you've seen what I've seen, that his stock has fallen to some degree. But he just gave you a top 10 finish. It's not like you didn't get good production out of Nico. And sure, points per game wise was probably a little bit sporadic because the Texans offense started a bit slow. And, over the course of the season, he kind of had to gradually work into it. But could you tell me why you think the perception around Nico Collins has changed so much when you drafted him to be a top 10 guy? He gave you a top 10 finish. I mean, where do you land on that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with just the overall worry about the Texans and CJ Stroud right now, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. Like, we don't, I can't really explain CJ Stroud. He's a
Yeah.
little bit of an enigma of like, this guy was awesome. His one of the
Yeah.
best rookie seasons at the quarterback position we had ever seen. And he's just regressed since then,
Totally.
negatively. And I think a lot of it has to do with that, that maybe we haven't quite had a full. I know Nico missed a couple games last year. He missed 4 or 5 games in 24. We've really only seen kind of like one complete season from Nico, but it's hard. I do think, and we'll talk about this in the next trade. I feel like is there's the perceived value that comes from the stuff that's not just stats, right? That
Yeah.
affects dynasty rankings, and so CJ Stroud I think is kind of negatively affecting Nico in a way. That's really the only explanation you can have, besides maybe a couple other guys like Pickens, Ibuka, McMillan kind of moving ahead of him.
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of it as well.
Totally. Totally. Well, let's move on to the next trade. Like you mentioned here, we could talk all day about every guy in that trade as they are studs. But here's an interesting one because there is something in this trade that the viewers can't see and does add a little bit more context here. But we got a 12-team super flex PPR start 10, and it is Parker Washington, the 102, and a 27 first on one side, moving for Cam Scadaboo, the 301, the 302, and the 401. And at first glance, this looks like a crazy overpay for Scadaboo. The context that the viewers don't have is that this is a half-point first down bonus. And so obviously the running backs are going to get a significant bump here. Clearly the scoring is going to be a tiny bit more skewed. However, even at that degree, I'm still thinking this is quite the overpay for Scat, and that's coming from a guy who's very high on Cam Scadaboo myself. But where do you land on him this offseason coming off the major injury, and how you valuing this?
Yeah, I'm also a big Scadaboo
Mm-hmm.
fan. I was telling my listeners, like, look, like this guy, people are gonna fall in love with this guy. He's gonna be on TikTok
Yeah.
reels, and all that stuff matters. That's kind of what we
Oh,
were
yeah.
getting at with
Yeah.
with the last trade. Like that's that perceived outside. Obviously, you still need to produce. Like if you're not producing, it's not gonna matter. But there's going to be players that collectively we all like a little bit more. And
Yeah.
Scadaboo and the Giants fans chanting boo whenever he gets a first down, like things
Yeah.
like that really
Yeah.
matter. I do think it's an overpay for Scadaboo. I mean, you could say you should probably, if someone offered you the 102 for Scadaboo, that's probably the smart move to make.
Yeah.
Even if you don't agree with that, the 27 first and Parker Washington, the difference between that and the 2/3 and the 401, especially with the hype. I mean, the 27 class is being hyped
Oh, yeah.
already.
I mean, you're going to flip
When
that 27 first if you want to for like a third round startup pick value next year with the way I'm watching it go on the dynasty market right now.
Yeah, I've never seen a draft class be this hyped a year and a half out from the actual draft. You know, it's insane.
Yeah.
Part of it because this class we're not as high on. That's part of the reason. But yeah, I think it's an overpay. I'm gonna take the 102 side, and you know, you're basically getting wide receiver one, or you're getting Mendoza if you feel like he should be going there. So
Totally.
I think it is an overpay.
Well, you and I are on the same page on this one. We don't need to beat a dead horse. What I did want to ask you, though, just on the topic of the players in this trade is I made an interesting decision the other day. And yes, I play in over 20 Dynasty leagues, so I like to like diversify my portfolio a bit here. But I am a Cam Scadaboo guy. I was in a startup just the other day, and I'm in the fourth round of the startup. It comes to me in the middle of the fourth, and I'm debating on taking my second running back here, and I'm deciding between Cam Scadaboo and Brees Hall. And to be frank, I own a lot of Brees already. I own a lot of Scat already. I'm sitting there, and I view them as actually very similar players. I think that's probably a hot take in the Dynasty market. I think so many people love Brees Hall, and just based off the draft capital that Cam Scadaboo got, and just his nature of kind of taking so many hits and welcoming the potential injuries, I guess, is that people are concerned about, and being a little older of a prospect too. Like, they're not that different in age, quite frankly. It's only a year difference, and Brees is, getting off that first contract. Cam's entering the second year of his. How do you feel about that? Because I ended up actually going Scadaboo and adding to my Scadaboo shares here. Maybe that makes me a little too crazy, but where would you land on that comparing those players? Are you taking Cam Scat in a startup and going with the guy on a younger contract, or are you going to take the guy who's probably going to get extended here?
I think I would still lean Brees.
That's fair.
I agree with I agree with you that my portfolio does matter a little bit. Um, but man, I do think Brees still has that potential, and maybe I'm just like holding out for hope. He did have an RB2 finish there a couple.
Yeah.
Was it 23 or 22?
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to forget that a little bit. Like, oh yeah, Brees
Totally.
was RB2 overall and stuff. I just think he's so good, and if the Jets could just find something at quarterback, just
Yeah.
an average quarterback, like it doesn't have to be elite MVP, just an average, Jacoby Brissett,
Yeah,
someone like that can
exactly.
just move the ball. Like I think Brees can be that guy. So I would still lead Brees personally. I don't hate the Scadaboo take. He averaged 16 points per game in the short time we saw him. Like, and he's a complete back. You got Harbaugh coming in there. You think that team's going to be better, at least winning more games, which means scoring more points most likely. So I don't hate it. I'm still going to lean Brees just because I feel like the ceiling for Brees is a little bit higher.
Yeah.
But man, if he goes back to the Jets, it is gonna be a little bit disappointing. Like we want to see him on the Chiefs or something, right? That's the team.
Yeah, someone to uncork the man. But I guess let's jump to the next trade here because there's an interesting player that's
Sure.
getting plenty of dynasty talk this offseason here. It's Travis Hunter right here. We got a 12-team Superflex PPR. It's a start 10. So a little deeper format here, more typically my formats. I love the 12-team start 11s. I think that's the nice sweet spot. But here we are with the start 10. We got Travis Hunter and a 27 second. As you said, the 27 class, regardless of if it's a first or second at this point, seems like it's gaining value. And you got the
Yep.
201 in this year's draft, the 206 in this year's draft, and a 27 third. And so, the way I kind of look at this one, just breaking it down, is you're kind of re-rolling that 206 into a 27 second, more or less, in my mind here. And then you're kind of buying Travis Hunter for the 201 and a third. I'm curious. This is not an IDP league. Let's keep that in mind. This is just going to be standard fantasy offensive football. Where are you valuing Travis Hunter these days? Are you paying this kind of price to get him, or are you done with the experiment after year one?
It is so I went through some of these trades and it's like okay I'm gonna highlight easy decision easy.
Yeah.
This one is like it's so hard
Yeah.
because I was very skeptical about Travis Hunter the entire pre dynasty rookie drafts that usually happen in May, the whole time until basically like a couple days before all my drafts started and then I bought in and I was skeptical about him being able to play both sides of the field. I was something people weren't talking about were injuries. What happens if the injuries start to pile up? They're definitely
Mm-hmm.
gonna move off of him. I kind of look at it the same. I think you can even make the argument potentially canceling out the 27 second and the 206 and the 27 third if that third is late. Just because
Sure.
I think even like the 210 next year is going to be better than the 206 this year most likely.
Totally.
But so it's like Travis Hunter roughly for the 201. and I think that's like right around where he is if you want to cash out like a late first in this draft. I think I might just hold Travis Hunter there and just gamble that they play him more at wide receiver. You
Hmm.
know, we saw him. The frustrating thing is we saw him. His last game was like, here we go, Travis Hunter time, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes out for the rest of the season with the injury. And I think if it's a couple picks earlier, I would be comfortable moving him. The 201 in this year's draft, and if you want to add that 27th third, I think I'm just going to gamble on Travis Hunter hitting and him being, you know, a stud piece for me.
Yeah.
But man, it is so hard. If anyone's telling you this is what they're going to do with Travis Hunter, they're lying to you. No one knows.
No one
No one knows.
knows, and honestly, this I totally understand coming from you because this is a tough trade, and I looked at it the same way where I'm like, I always try to not get biased with things, you know, and let my player bias come into play because like a big thing I preach on my channel, right, is like, how can I use the dynasty market to my advantage? Like, there's plenty of times that I will trade for players that I have no intention of rostering by the time September comes around, but because whether I think they're going to get an offseason boost or just simply the narrative around the player is good, and I look at it as an opportunity not to get into too much stock trading here, but as a swing trade. You know, can I buy him here for the 301 and can I sell him in September for the 205 next year? Right? I mean, at that point, I came out on top regardless of if he took a snap for me or he didn't. And so I think I struggle with that one with Travis Hunter because I will level with you and say that that's probably the smart decision here is to take the Travis Hunter in the 27 second, just because most likely that's going to be the side that equates to more value in the future that you're going to be able to flip and make a profit on. I think my bias is banging me in the back of the head right now and saying, I do lean the 201 side just barely here. And I think it's just because I don't believe that Travis Hunter's going to come back and give me any sort of
Yeah.
fantasy relevant performance here. And I'm just worried that if he comes out and doesn't do anything in the first 6 weeks, we're talking about you're getting thirds for Hunter instead of getting seconds for Hunter. And so I think, like, as a risk management perspective, I personally am moving off. But I will agree with you from the sense that the smart call here would be to probably to take the 27 second and Hunter and use it just as another piece to trade for because you can probably get more out of that side of the trade if you shop it to everybody in your league than you can get from the 201 just because the narrative around this year's class. And I don't know if you've been hearing the same thing, but plenty of dynasty creators are banging their drum out there. Get rid of your 27 or 26 picks. Get rid of your 26 picks. Yeah.
Yeah. I- and I do think this class is better than we're giving it
I
credit
agree.
for.
I
Like,
agree. Yeah.
and last year was the same. Like in January, people were saying the 25 class sucked,
Yeah.
and then as we got closer to the draft, say, oh yeah, it's super deep at running back. That creates a good draft. This draft is going to be super deep at receiver, in my
Totally.
opinion. So
Totally.
it's gonna create a good draft. I agree with you. I will say this: I don't normally like to get into like, oh, are you a contending team or not?
Yeah.
Because you can make the argument. But I will say this: if Travis Hunter's like a luxury piece to your team, you won the championship last year or made it to the championship
Yeah.
playoffs, and it's kind of like, well, he's kind of a luxury piece. I don't need him. I want to hold him for this just because if he does hit, my team's that much better, and if he
Totally.
doesn't, well, I can probably still win, right? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I agree. It is tough, Travis Hunter. And real quick before we move
Yeah.
on, you know, the Jags look at their team. They need more cornerback help than they need pass catchers. So,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it makes more sense to play him at corner.
I mean, honestly, the Jags themselves could be a topic of a whole show here. I've actually wanted to do a Jags fantasy football breakdown just because you got ETN potential free agent. What's going on with Brian Thomas Jr.? You just signed Jacoby Myers to the extension. Parker Washington's in the mix. I mean, you and I could go for days on that, and some of these guys will be appearing in a trade later on here, including Brian Thomas Jr., so he'll get his day in the sun to be talked about by you and I. So stick around, folks, if you want to hear what Mike and I got to say about Brian Thomas Jr. coming up here. But let's dive into the next one as we've got some massive names here, including the man, the myth, the legend himself, Ja'Marr Chase. You got another 12-team Superflex PPR star 10. It's going to be Ja'Marr Chase, a 27 first and a 28 first on one side. And that's moving for Josh Allen, Trey Tucker, and Alec Iaminer here. So where are we at with Josh Allen here? And are you willing to pay 2 first-round picks premium on top of Ja'Marr Chase to bring him in a super flex?
I'm I'll take the Chase side here.
Yeah.
It's a 12-team start 10.
Hmm.
So I agree with you. I like deeper leagues. Our listener leagues are 12 by 12.
Oh,
12
lovely.
teams start 12. So
Yeah,
and that's where guys like Trey Tucker actually matter, right? You're
totally.
starting the championship teams are starting Trey Tucker caliber players.
Yep.
In a 12-team start 10, if I like Tucker. He should be rostered. Alec Manor, do I think he can take the next step? Sure. Do I think he's probably at best a wide receiver too, like for an offense? Yes. Most likely, if you're starting those guys consistently, you're probably not going to be making the playoffs anyways.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say I look at them as like not important to the trade at all, but to me, it really is like essentially Josh Allen for those two firsts and Chase, and I'm going to go the Jamar Chase side. Another reason you've been in a lot of startups. I've consumed and done a couple myself and watched a lot. Quarterbacks are being devalued. Sometimes I see
Yeah.
Josh Allen not going to the 105, 106. And is that right? I don't necessarily think so. I still think he's awesome. He's the QB1, in my opinion, and he's going to be the QB1 for the foreseeable future. But quarterbacks are being devalued a little bit, and you have to sometimes take that into account.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm going to take Chase in the two first side for Josh Allen.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you here. I think it's got to be Chase. I think if we were talking Chase in one first and we had Josh Allen and maybe even like Chris Godwin, coming back to me on the other side, someone that could maybe give me some upside this season. Yeah, Jacoby Myers, perfect example. I think I'd be considering it a hell of a lot more at that point, just because I do agree with you. I think the quarterbacks have been following to that point. It's a perfect spring topic because I was going to ask you. You called it right there, and I didn't even give him any prep, guys. No staged prep here. But that startup that I was in last week, I got the fifth overall pick. It's a super flex league, 16 man. Actually, this one was so it was a 16 man start 9, so still pretty deep format there. Just because the sheer number of teams, especially for super flex, most guys are going to end up with only one quarterback on the roster. As those 16 man leagues, they really go quick in those startup drafts, but. I got Josh Allen at the 1-5. I did not expect that to happen. I barely ever end up with any Josh Allen shares, as I normally don't end up drafting at the top, and sometimes I'll even trade out of those top spots. But he fell all the way to the 1-5. I was quite frankly shocked. The team build came out pretty well because of it, and I watched Drake May go, and even guys like Jackson Smith and Jigba and Bijan Robinson go in front of him, and I get it. They're young, incredible skill players, and in a 16-man league that's going to be deep, you gotta take your value where you can get it. But where are you on the whole Josh Allen, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson taking a little bit of a dip this offseason? Like, where are we at with these premium quarterbacks? Are you still taking Josh Allen 101 in a Dynasty Superflex startup, or has Drake May taken the crown for you now? Where do you land?
I'm still Josh Allen at the 101 personally in a super flex league. Drake May. So I was telling my listeners last year around this time, I'm valuing Drake May as a top 5 QB asset because I think he's going to have a season that gets him there, and he did.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm telling people I think he's probably a tear down option because
Yeah.
he's at the one. He's potentially the 101 for a lot of people. I think now is the time to to tear down to
Mm-hmm.
a Lamar, potentially a Jaden Daniels, and get something on top. I get why quarterbacks are being devalued a bit. I still think those elite quarterbacks are the most valuable piece, depending on settings, of course, but are the most valuable piece in Dynasty. Maybe like the QB that you have a giant tier of guys from like QB 7 or 8 to like 20 that are kind of in this giant bucket for me, like the Herberts and the Strouds and the Cam Ward's is going to be in there and stuff like that, where it's just like, okay, maybe those guys should be devalued a bit, but
Mm-hmm.
the Allens, the elite rushing quarterbacks, I'm still taking them over every other position personally. Maybe
Yeah.
that's a mistake. We'll find out, but I think we're a little bit overreacting to, quarterbacks have been down the last couple of years in terms of scoring, but that just makes the elite guys even more valuable in my opinion.
No, I agree. I'm with you. I mean, for as good as Drake May looked through most of the season, MVP runner up, I get it. I own Drake May in a lot of leagues, luckily. I'm with you. If I'm at the 101, I'm still taking Josh Allen. I think our recency bias sometimes gets us a shot in the foot in fantasy football, but yeah,
As more redraft fantasy players get into Dynasty, it's just going to happen. It
totally.
used to be, oh, we don't look at Dynasty in the 5 year windows. It's like 2, maybe 3 now. And
Yeah.
it's even week to week, but month to month and during the season. But yeah, I think we are overreacting a bit. And I still want those elite QB
Well,
assets.
just before we jump to the next one last question for you here as we talk about the tear downs. And you mentioned one, you're saying it could be a time to tear off Drake May this offseason. I'm sure there's plenty of people listening out there in the Dynasty community that own some Drake May and are feeling like they just won the lottery today and all that. I mean, you mentioned Lamar Jackson. I've seen him take a massive dynasty hit. Like I said, in all these startups I'm doing, I'm watching him go at the 1-2 turn now. And, he's never fallen below the 1-4 in my previous startups from last offseason. You're getting a nice little discount. Like, we talk about this 27 class, some of those picks are going to be worth a ton. Say I'm coming to you and you're the Drake May owner. I offer you Lamar Jackson, a 27 first and second. Are you taking that at this point and just taking the profit and saying, yeah, I don't mind. I'll get, almost a decade older. Drake May's 22 and Josh Allen's going to be Lamar Jackson's going to be 29 this offseason. So where are we at there? I guess 7-year difference, but are you willing to take the first and second on top of that? Cuz I think that deal would get done often.
I'm taking Lamar and running. To be
Yeah.
honestly, maybe this is a hot take. I might take Lamar straight up over Drake May. Now,
Really interesting. Yeah.
now I do have to take into account where the perceive, like, how does everyone else evaluate
The
Drake
perceived
May?
value, right? Like community
Exactly.
values. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that does make me hesitate. But is anyone going to be shocked if like Lamar is like 4, 5 points per game better than Drake May? Like, I like
No.
Drake May. I think
Yeah.
he's awesome. He's not. I think he can run the ball, but is he a rushing quarterback? I think there's a distinction there. I had this argument with Bo
Totally.
Nix. Like, okay, he can rush for 60 in a game, but he also has like half his games under 15 yards rushing. That's not a rushing quarterback to
Yep.
me.
Yep.
Drake May's kind of in that bucket. Like, sure, he could rush for 60, 70 yards in any game, 2 touchdowns, but is
Mm-hmm.
he going to do it consistently? Lamar is, and I think he's going to continue to do that. So
Well, and the
it might be a
interesting thing
hot
with
take, but
Yeah, well, the interesting thing with Drake May is like, obviously, I'm not going to make this exact comparison. They're very different players, so don't quote me on this, guys. But like, it's almost like you remember Russell Wilson early in his career. He was running a lot. He was a mobile rushing quarterback. But after he got that first contract and like kind of settled into his place in Seattle in his mid-20s, he had those, what you were saying. He could do the Bo Nix, the Drake May thing. He could run for 60, 70 yards in a game still, and it happened every once in a while. But he really wasn't. Like most of his games, he'll pick up a first down when we really needed it in Seattle. When I say we, sorry guys, Seahawks homer over here. But I just don't know if that was his go-to looks, right? And I think that's the difference between when we talk about players in fantasy specifically, Drake May versus Lamar. Lamar is most of the time gonna look to run. He is a running quarterback. Drake May, I think he's gonna run when he needs to run. And from a franchise quarterback perspective, you're probably preferring the need to run guy. He's more durable, less likely to get injured, true pocket passer. Say what you want. This is fantasy. And I think I'm with you there where like we have such recency bias in fantasy football. There's a very good chance that Lamar Jackson comes out and scores a hell of a lot more points than Drake May does next year. And what we're not talking about also, and I think a lot of people have avoided this offseason, is say what you want, but I'm going to sound like a Seahawks stan over here, but Seattle really exposed the Patriots, I think, strength of schedule, especially at the end of the year there. They hadn't played anybody in the quality of those top NFC teams. I mean, I genuinely believe if Seattle didn't make the Super Bowl, the Rams dropped the hammer on the Patriots. Probably the San Francisco 49ers beat the Patriots. I mean, like, you could call me an NFC crazy guy over here just because it's my division, but I just think that the Patriots got a very easy walk this year. And if you look at their schedule next year already, their opponents, I think Drake May is going to have some struggling games. And you watch the turnovers during the postseason here. What if you play in a league like some of mine are, where I punish interceptions heavily in my leagues? Like it's -3 for an interception. It's -6 for a pick six. I believe if you give the ball to the other team, that's the same as giving away a touchdown. You're losing 6 points. I know a lot of other fantasy players won't have that, but could Drake May take a serious step back? Potentially. Yeah.
look at I think of Justin Herbert when I think of Drake May. Justin
Mm-hmm.
Herbert after his sophomore season was what, QB2,
Uh-huh.
QB3? Like he was going at the 102 sometimes in my startups there. Where is he
Yeah.
at now? He's still an awesome quarterback. I love Drake May. Again, I was telling people I think he's going to have a big season,
Yep.
elite asset. He's turned into that. But Lamar, man, is so good. Look at what Lamar did the first 3 games before he got injured. He was
Yeah,
averaging 27 points a game. Now
that's
it's three
crazy.
games, short sample size, but
Yeah.
we've seen it from Lamar before. It's not like, oh, it's just 3 games. It's like, no, we've seen full seasons of that from Lamar,
Yeah.
you know? So, and Drake May could take a step up. He could get more weapons, and maybe he is going to run the ball. Could he eclipse 500 yards? Sure. I would probably
Yeah.
bank on like 400 to 450. But yeah, I just think it's time to try and tear down from May. I think if you can get some really good assets on top of it, but again, at the same time, May's awesome.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's no
This is not us telling you to panic sell Drake May, guys. It's just reading the market and seeing, like Mike said, I mean, you got to sometimes, take that young flashy asset that everybody's talking about and take a massive profit off of it. And sometimes it'll help set up your dynasty team for a significant future run here. So speaking of the future, we had a guy last year that finished in the top 5 wide receivers and then kind of took a nice little drive off the side of the cliff this year in Brian Thomas Jr. This is a guy I've been waiting to get your opinion on. I'm very curious to see because he's one of the most polarizing topics in the dynasty community, I think, right now. Like I said, I've been doing some startups. I see him go in the early 3rd round still for some people that are like, take your round discount because he was going in the early 2nd last year. And I've seen him fall all the way to the late 6th, early 7th round of a startup and watching guys, smash on some pretty crazy names before they even look at Brian Thomas Jr.'s direction. So here we are with a 12-team Superflex Start 10 again, and we got Brian Thomas Jr. and the 105 on one side, moving for T. Higgins in the 106. So I think obviously get inside this guy's head real quick. He's basically saying, I want to move off the risk of Brian Thomas Jr. I'll roll it into a guy I know that's probably going to just give me what T. Higgins does every year, 17 to 24 finish, and I'll take a discount and moving down one pick in my rookie draft just to move off the risk. Where are you on this one? And I guess let's even start without the picks. Like Brian Thomas Jr. or T. Higgins, where are you today? And talk me through your BTJ whirlwind.
And it is an absolute whirlwind. And sometimes it's good to say like, okay, I can have my opinion, but to my listeners, sometimes I really don't know what is going on with these players, and stuff like that. Like the Travis Hunter, like no one really knows what's going to happen there. I was trying to think of like an example of someone who was so good their rookie season who kind of like fell off. And if you go back and look from like 2000 onwards, there's only a couple of guys that you can really point to. One of them is Michael Clayton. That's when I started first watching football in 2004. He was awesome. He had 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns, 80 catches, and then never had 500 yards more in his career. Played another, 6-7 years and then was done. Kelvin Benjamin and stuff. Other than that, it's like studs. And so to me, this is do you chase kind of the upside of BTJ, who, going into last year was the top 5 wide receiver for people, versus T. Higgins, who is awesome. Could he finish top 12? Sure. If Burrow has a big year, probably going to be closer to like wide receiver 15, 17 range, which is great. The picks, you can say, those picks are interesting. I think right now for me, there's a tier break between the 105 and the 106. So that obviously, it's not in the same tier. Man, this is so hard. I think I'm going to shoot for the upside of BTJ.
I like it.
Now, I probably also play portfolio a little bit, and they're that close to where like, oh, I don't have any T. Higgins. Let me get T. Higgins here, like in a startup or something.
Yeah.
I think I might shoot for the upside of BTJ though, because again, 12 teams start 10. It's not deep, it's not shallow, but like I need those stud pieces to win, and so I'm gonna do it. But I'm fully acknowledging that could be a huge mistake, and that could be a terrible trade in a year.
Well, no, I think you make a good point there, and like you said earlier, I don't always dive into and explore are you a contender? Are you a rebuilder? Right? Like I will say, I think if you're in the middle or you're contending, I will take the T. Higgins side. Like, just give me my proven product. I know what I'm getting. If I really am like, I want that production, I want, the chance to contend this year, and I don't want to run the risk that Brian Thomas Jr. is a one-season wonder, I would probably do this, right? And I wouldn't fault anybody for it. From your point of view, if you're anywhere in the middle, like if you missed the playoffs last year, you're sitting right now with the 105, 106, kind of pick. I'm with you, Mike. I think you got to take Brian Thomas Jr. and the earlier pick and just hope that there is an upside here, because where we were just last offseason was, like we were saying, Brian Thomas Jr. was an early second-round startup pick. I watched him go at the 1-2 turn often, with the 111, the 112 going right next to Malik Neighbors, and it's like, okay, what a fall from grace here. And if he does show some life again, we could see some nice value spike. I mean, another interesting comment you had, and I'm curious where your thoughts are. Obviously, this one doesn't distinguish. It doesn't say it's a tight end premium, so we got to take that into consideration. But I think if you do play in a tight end premium league, I think that, and this will probably happen as we get closer to the NFL draft and post NFL drafts, like we always do. Everyone always says, if I don't have a top 3 pick, if I don't have a top 4 pick, like, I don't want it. There's a major tier break. We're starting to see that blend already. I mean, I don't know if you're following this combine stuff, and I already liked him as a player, but Kenyon Sadiq just exploded all over the map this week. He looks like one of the most crazy athletic specimens we've seen. He's young as hell. He's got all this upside. I mean, like, in a tight end premium, did that tier break just go from 105 to 106 for sure? Because now there's no way I'm letting Kenyon Sadiq fall lower than the 106 in a tight end premium. In fact, I think you could make an argument for taking him over Mendoza at this point, as crazy as it sounds. So give me kind of your thoughts there on how I know we didn't do a lot of rookie talk, and I haven't done all my scouting as well to give you my final rankings, but how you feel so far about some of the guys in this class. Are you excited about it?
I actually am. Like, I originally started with I like the first 5 or 6 guys. It's kind of expanded to about the top 10. Like, I think the first round's going to become good. We're going to be very excited about the first 12 players, and I think that's going to bleed into, like, you're going to be able to get early second round rookie picks. You're going to be getting a top 50 wide receiver in the NFL draft. Top 50 overall player.
Totally.
Who's drafted there. So I agree with you. If it's a tight end premium, especially if it's a heavy tight end premium, a 0.75, 0.1, again, our listener leagues, we play in a 1.25 tight end premium. Then absolutely there's, that tier break, the tier just expanded.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, I would say, like, right now I would put on money on that tier is expanding, even if it's not a tight end premium. Denzel Boston, wide receiver, out of Washington, I think he's making a case to kind of being in that same tier with those other 3 receivers. So if I had to guess, I think that 105 and 106 are going to be in the same tier. Like, right now, if you gun to my head, I think I would say there's a tier break, but
yeah,
I would probably bank on there not being a tier break.
Well, again, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but like you said, there's guys that I'm already seeing week to week. I consume content as much as I make it over here. I'm seeing the narrative change around guys like Omar Cooper Jr. are now like, oh, he's bona fide first round pick. I mean, there's going to be guys that fly up this board and become relevant in your rookie drafts. And I think where we were a month ago, where everybody and their mom on the internet's telling you to fire sale your 26 picks, I think you're going to be kind of regretting you did that if you were moving them into, like I saw some guys saying a few weeks ago, won't name names, but let's take my 110 and I'll roll it into an early 27 second. Like, I don't even care. Like, give me a 27 second right now. I'm like, that's crazy behavior. A first is a first. I don't care what you say. But to put you a little bit on the spot, is there any guys out there in this class? I know we're early, right? I'm not going to hold you to your analysis here, but is there any guys you're watching that you think have some upside in this class that are kind of spiking your entertainment here? I mean, there's one guy I know that I'm kind of on an island with right now, and actually had a great combine performance. So my real truthers will know I've been on this train for months, but I'm a big Jacoby Lane guy. I think Jacoby Lane's going to be a very sneaky NFL wide receiver. He's just got that, like, fluidity about him, and the intangibles there. And I actually said in a video a couple weeks ago, which ironically looks wrong now to some degree, I was like, his metrics aren't going to jump off the board for you. He's not going to do anything flashy at the combine. He's not going to come out and be super fast, super, athletic score specimen, but he's got this really fluid route running ability, and he creates, nice amount of separation. He's got wonderful hands in the red zone, and all the eyes are going to go to Mekhi Lemon, but he finds these soft spots in the zone that I think is just, like, very NFL translatable, especially with these, like, quarterbacks that are so good at, from the college level moving to the NFL level, like, they'll release the ball so much earlier, and they'll throw to where you're going to be, not to where you are. And I think that's a huge difference, right, that we see in the jump between college and the NFL. But he's kind of been one of my guys, and then suddenly he comes out running a sub 4.4 the other day, and he looks incredibly athletic. And I'm like, Are we going to see Jacoby Lane fly up from? I was hoping I'd be snagging him at the 2.5, 2.6 comfortably everywhere, and now I'm like, this guy might be a first round rookie pick by when it's all said and done if the hype train continues. But where are you at with some of the guys? You got anybody you really like in this class?
Yeah, I mean, besides the obvious guys,
Yeah.
I really like Omar Cooper Jr.
Hmm.
As well, but he's starting to not become like that. Oh,
The sleeper
I'm
anymore.
high on him. No one else. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
A couple sleepers. I don't know if they're going to be first round picks. I would guess no. Seth McGowan, running back out of Kentucky.
Mm.
Now he played in like the COVID year. He had some legal issues. Actually, he didn't play Division One football from 2020 to 2024. He went to jail for a little bit and stuff. So he's old. He's not
Hmm.
going to go probably in the first 4 rounds, most likely, because NFL teams don't like to draft 25. I think he might be even 26
Really?
running backs. But man, go turn on the tape of Seth McGowan. That guy is awesome. Like he's going to be a third round rookie in this class that I'm going to be drafting late second potentially.
Wow.
So he's someone, and then Skylar Bell out of UConn. He's also starting to rise up boards a little bit. He had a really good combine. His 40 time, his vertical, all that stuff was awesome. So I really like Skylar Bell as well as like another. I again don't think he's going to be a first round pick, but I'm a fan of his. And then yeah, those two guys I would probably highlight as like later, late second, maybe even early third round picks in this rookie draft.
Yeah. No, I mean, you threw out some great names there. Some of them I hadn't even heard of. So Mike's putting us on all on some ball knowledge here. I love it. I'm gonna check out the tape, but I'm with you. I mean, we talked about Lane and outside the obvious guys. Love Sadiq, and I'm actually a big Jordan Tyson guy. Like, I think there'll be a nice little debate at the top here of, are we going Tate, are we going Lemon, are we going Tyson? He's kind of that same archetype for me of just like his film stands out to me. He just looks different on the field than I think a lot of other guys. But outside of that, I mean, I think an interesting guy is, I'm going to show my hometown pride again, but like, I think if Jonah Coleman lands in the right system, like fantasy wise, he could be very, very relevant. I mean, he's just such a bowling ball, like such a red zone guy that like, are you guaranteed going to get a Jonah Coleman 1,200 yard rushing season? No, probably not. But like, could you easily get, those Jamal Williams seasons where he puts in 18 touchdowns and David Montgomery putting in 12 to 15 touchdowns just as a goal line back? Like, Jonah Coleman could definitely be one of those guys that, yeah, maybe never gives you RB1 upside, but like as a flex position, especially when you're talking about some of your leagues 12 by 12 and stuff, like I'd probably be thrilled to just take the floor that I'm going to get one bowling ball touchdown no matter what per game, keeping my floor at like 8 to 10 points, and the games I punch in 2 or 3, suddenly we got a 35-point performance on our hands. So I think there's some interesting guys in this class, and there might be some guys you get at some great value because, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that I think Jonah Coleman might not even be a top 100 draft pick, right, in the NFL. And so if he's like a fourth round guy, and we're talking like Scadamu like last year, where you can get him in the mid second round of your rookie draft, could be walking away with it with a decent piece. So before you guys start fire selling your picks, I took us off track a little bit here, but we're gonna dive back into another trade. I always love talking the rookies during the offseason, though. But before we do so, Mike, give the people a little bit of knowledge about you here. I know I jumped us right into trades out the gate, but tell us about Victory Formation. If you guys haven't already, hop on over, subscribe to Mike's channel, show him some love and support. He's a true ball know over here. Man's doing good work out there for PFF as well. So talk about a little bit of your football experience, who you support, and talk to the people.
Yeah, I've been playing fantasy now. 2005 was my first season, so I had Steve Smith on my team, and I chose Peyton Manning over LT in the 2006 draft, and we know how that went with LT. Even though I am a Chargers fan,
Nice.
More of a Chargers fan when they were in San Diego, but still follow them and hope they do well. So just love fantasy. Obviously, Dynasty is like it's an obsession, right? And once you get into it, you just can't stop. So been making content now for about 3 years, seriously. You'll see me and my brother on a lot of videos, or me solo. And yeah, we used to kind of focus on redraft and dynasty. We've kind of shifted all to dynasty, and We do, trade shows, both live and recorded. We do kind of like, certain player price checks. We do a lot of rookie content and scouting and stuff like that. Ja'Cory Krusky-Merritt was like my guy back before anyone was talking
Yeah.
about him, and we'll see how that turns out. But
Yeah.
these kind of diamond in the rough, we get pretty deep into seventh round picks and trying to figure out, who's the next Puka, right? That's the big buzzword. Who's the next Puka? So, but yeah, just a big football fan for over 20 years now, and fantasy fan, and yeah, content for the last 3. So if you search in the YouTube search bar, you probably have to put in Victory Formation Fantasy or Dynasty, because you might just get a bunch of clips of Tom Brady kneeling down in the Super Bowl or something. So yeah.
No, well, we appreciate you coming on, man. It's always awesome to get guys on here and be able to share some dynasty knowledge. Speaking of the dynasty knowledge, I wanted to springboard off the last trade. This will be the last BTJ one we talk about, but I had you there. You were taking BTJ the first time. Are you if you're a BTJ owner, are you rolling him into a mid 27 pick and just saying I'll cut my losses here, give me a chance at that 27 class, or are we still believing that BTJ will climb up enough that he can regain that value past the 27 hype?
Yeah, another tough one, to be honest. Like, it is so hard. If I felt fairly confident that that was going to be a top 8 pick or something,
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine kind of re-rolling that
Yeah.
into and just cutting my losses. If you look at the team and you can, or even see a path to it being higher, you're like, okay, if this guy gets injured and he doesn't really have a QB3 or something, then I can see this guy not making the playoffs or something. Absolutely. If it's like a super team and it's probably going to be a top, 110 to 112 pick, I'm fine just keeping BTJ. If you told me you wanted to cash out there,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to argue too much. But it's just one of those trades. Like, it feels like if I make that lateral move, and I kind of view it as a lateral move, like a late first for BTJ.
Yeah.
If I make that lateral move, like, it's probably not going to turn out the way I want it to, and so I kind of
Yeah.
just keep the guy I have. But some people might not agree. Like, they might think it isn't a lateral move, that you're actually, I mean, you might have paid a late first for BTJ in a
Yeah.
lot of those drafts last year. So
No, I mean, I think this is the one that gets me. I'll take the first. Get me out here. I'll take that 27 first. Just like we were saying, the hype behind this class alone. I think I just like, if even right now, if it's looking mid to late, I probably am not even waiting for it to amortize too much. I'm just gonna take it and see if that'll get me Lad McConkey and or something like that, and get me out and get me re-rolling at the wide receiver position. But speaking of the man, the myth, the legend himself, has a little bit of a down year as well. I thought it was really interesting this offseason, and I don't know if you track stuff like this, but I was doing so many startups at the beginning of last year, the listener leagues, like you mentioned, you got some of your own, but friendly reminder for those listening out here, you want to play in a league with me, nice and easy to do. Head on over in the top right corner there to dynastypricecheck.com, click join a listener league. You can submit your form. We still got 7 more startups this offseason to fill, so if you guys want to swing on with me, let's see you there. I'd be happy to suit up. But yeah, I watched a lot of dynasty startups last year. You had the early third round, and it was going Jackson Smith and Jigba, Garrett Wilson, Lad McConkey, and it wasn't in any specific order. Take your order there. I watched every different imagination you could have of it, but I found it interesting because after 1 year, I've seen massive movement. Right, we had JSN rise up to be a first round startup pick. Garrett Wilson, I'm finding, has retained his value, kind of just exactly the same. Gets the extension, but obviously gets hurt, kind of just sitting in that third round still. But now I've seen Lad drop sometimes even to like I was mentioning in the 6th round, like late 6th round even, after a down year. Now, I know the Mike McDaniels news gets people excited a little bit again, and maybe we're going to start to see that change, but we got a 10-team 2 QB league here. It's a start 11 though, so still pretty deep. We got some spots that are relevant here. You got the 101 on one side, so we're talking Jeremiah Love, and we're going for Lad McConkey, a 27 first and a 27 second, and both of those are going to be late, apparently. The guy says this is coming from a good team, so I'm assuming, like you were mentioning earlier, maybe that's a 110 or later here, or at least 109. So how are you valuing this? Are you taking a swing on Lad on a bounce back here, or are you just saying, I got Jeremiah Love, I'm rolling with it?
yeah, this is another tough trade in my opinion. You mentioned it. It's a 10-team start 11,
Mm-hmm.
so if it's a 12-team start 11, I think you're definitely starting to look at that lad and the two picks there a
Mm-hmm.
little bit easier. But it's a 10-team start 11 is it's essentially like a 12-team start 9. So I don't consider those super deep and stuff. Man, I think if those are both going to be late, I think I'm fine just taking Jeremiah Love and hoping that he can turn into a Bijan or a Gibbs or maybe what we hope Genty's going to be, um, or even Amari and Hampton. Ladd's an interesting one in general. Like Chargers fan here, and I wasn't ever as high on Ladd as other people were. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like kind of what we got his rookie year. I didn't expect. I liked him as a prospect, but I kind of expected like this is what Ladd McConkey is to me, like that 80 catch, 11, 1,200
Yeah.
yard guy, and we'll see how many touchdowns he gets. And that's awesome. Like that's really good production and stuff. I thought he almost kind of hit his ceiling after year one, and I absolutely could be wrong about that. I'm wrong about a lot of things, but obviously, I'm not even judging Ladd strongly based on what he did last year because I thought it was just kind of a weird year for the Chargers with the injuries and obviously Keenan Allen coming back, and we don't expect that to happen. So I don't know. I was never the highest on Ladd. I was definitely like Garrett Wilson, JSN over him.
Mm-hmm.
I think in this format though, I'm fine. I'm gonna lock up Jeremiah Love.
Yeah.
I think I know what he's gonna be. Maybe he's not that year one, kind of like Bijan and Genty weren't like that
Mm-hmm.
year one. But I'm hoping that especially if he goes. I mean, this year is so unique because a lot of teams picking in the top 10. Are we going to be shocked if those are like contending playoff Super Bowl teams? Washington with Jaden Daniels back healthy, Kansas
Yep.
City, Cincinnati. Those three teams are all picking in the top 10. That's very rare. I mean,
Totally.
if Love falls on, he gets to the Chiefs, like holy crap, like
Oh
the
yeah.
the, the hype for Jeremiah Love is going to
It's
be
going to be
insane.
through the
So
roof, right? I mean, I'm with you
I,
here.
I
I think we got to take Jeremiah. I think even the narrative around it. We just saw the combine. He looked good. If the landing spot hits, sky's the limit on Jeremiah Love. I mean, like you said, if he lands with the Chief, tell me I'm wrong, but does he suddenly just like you're watching him go in the late first round of startup drafts? I mean,
oh
you're probably taking Jameer Gibbs, and then before you even swing on a Malik Neighbors, you're just saying I'll take Jeremiah Love.
he I saw a startup I was watching,
Mm-hmm.
and they did the rookie picks for picks, and the first rookie pick was taken 10th overall. So
Wow.
essentially, they said Jeremiah Love's a top 10 pick. I think that's a little bit of a stretch, but
Yeah, I'm watching him
when it
comfortably
comes to
fall
the
in that like middle second range. I watch it's basically a flip flop between him and Genty, right? It'll go, you'll get a bunch of the receivers go, and then anywhere between like the 2.5 and the 2.8, you're watching Genty in the rookie 101 go, and it's like that's a different conversation in itself. I think landing spot's going to determine who we're taking there, but
you, you also mentioned like, and I totally agree with you. Of like, okay, I'm buying this player or pick because what can it turn into? Tyler Shuck was a perfect example. I
yeah,
was taking him like top 15 last year,
mm-hmm.
and I wasn't even arguing that he was a good quarterback. I was saying as soon as he is announced as the starter, I can flip him for more.
Yep,
I was getting him in the third round in rookie in super flex leagues, late
mm-hmm.
second. So you kind of look at this and you say Love is going to hold value for a year plus. I mean,
Yep,
Genty is still RB3,
yeah,
even though he didn't have the greatest season, right? He's still
mm-hmm.
RB3. If McConkey comes out and kind of gives you a little bit like last year, maybe a little bit more, he's going to start plummeting in value.
Yeah,
I mean, he already has a little bit, right? So you're kind of playing the stock market a little bit. Now, you can argue those 27 picks are only going to rise for the next year, and that's true.
sure,
But still, like, I mean, you just have so much value, and it's safe with Jeremiah Love at the 101 that a year plus of value there that's not going to change.
yeah. No, I'm with you. You got to take Love on this one. Let's play a little rapid fire game while I have you here. Ladd McConkey's an interesting topic. Like I said, his value's kind of been all over the map. I've been doing these startups. Let me just give you Ladd McConkey here, and I'm going to give you a couple other players, and you just tell me just one for one in Dynasty which one you're taking today. And we'll just rapid fire them a little bit. But Ladd McConkey or Mika Ibuka?
Megabuka.
You're gonna take Ibuka. Ladd McConkey or Rashi Rice?
Mm.
I watch them go side by side in this startup.
Man, it's so hard. I'll take Rice, and I'm not even. I don't want to touch on the stuff, the legal. I obviously you have to have that in the back of your mind, but
Yeah.
in terms of like good or bad or the character of the person and stuff, I still think the NFL sweeps those things under the rug a lot
Hmm.
if you're a good player, and I'm gonna take Rushy Rice.
Okay.
I'm gonna take him. And it's a
Lad
risk, but I'm gonna
McConkey
take him.
or Marvin Harrison Jr.
I'm gonna take Marv. I
You
just think
take
the
Marv? Okay.
upside, the ceiling, if Marv hits, yeah. Again, I'm not shocked if McConkey's better than him for his career, but if Marv hits, the upside.
Fair, fair. Okay, last one for you. It's an interesting one. Lad McConkey or AJ Brown. There's so much AJ Brown trade
Oh
rumors right now. It's like if AJ Brown goes to the Patriots, are we just saying I'll take AJ Brown, or are you going Lad McConkey and taking the age?
no, I am 100% AJ Brown. I'm one of the biggest AJ Brown fans. I was high on him as a rookie. AJ Brown finished as the wide receiver 11 last year in
Yeah.
total points and points per game.
Hmm.
Over the last 2 years, he was a top 12 guy, and the Eagles just didn't throw the ball ever,
Yeah.
right? Like they did a little bit more
And they
last year.
fire
They
the
had
offensive
25, but
coordinator. Their line was trash. It's like he had the quietest wide receiver 11 season I can remember in fantasy football.
yeah. Oh, it was yeah. You would and I still get shocked when I just saw that a couple weeks ago. I was like,
Yeah.
holy crap! I would have guessed like 18. 100% AJ Brown. I'm under the philosophy of, especially in shallower leagues, a top 5 season at a running back. I'll take like one top 5 season at the running back or receiver position versus like 5 wide receiver 24 seasons,
Totally.
because that's what wins me championships. I think AJ Brown is a buy low target. I think we're hoping he gets traded, and if someone's going to trade for him,
Hmm.
it has to be a contending team, right? It has to
Yeah.
be the Bills.
Yeah.
It has to be the Patriots, like you mentioned, and Vrabel and him reunite. So I'm 100% AJ Brown
Well,
there.
look, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I gotta ask because I've been jostling with it left and right myself. I feel comfortable with it. I got a lot of contending rosters out there, teams that I feel like are a piece or so away from getting over the hump. Like if you are sitting with this 26 class like we were just talking about, if you could throw a late first, like a 110 for AJ Brown right now, I think I've seen that deal get done already in several of my listener leagues. I think there's a lot of people that, for one reason or another, whether it was the Eagles' eye test last year, whether it was AJ Brown's diva behavior, whatever it might be, like people are just out on the man. Like, would you be fine sending him a late first right now for AJ Brown if you're somewhere in the middle or you're a contending roster? I got to assume you're saying, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
and I know he's getting up there in age. He'll be
Hmm.
29 before the season starts. We've seen, like, for receivers, even running backs, like I think we put a little bit too much stock into age. And again,
Hmm.
if we're playing in 2 to 3 year windows,
Yep.
AJ Brown could easily be a top 10, top 5 wide receiver the next 2 seasons,
Totally.
especially if he gets on the right team. I mean, he's already been top 10 on the Eagles, who don't
Yep.
throw the ball. So yeah, 100%. I'll trade a late first for that.
Nah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I think you got our blessing here, guys. If you're a contending team and the AJ Brown market has dipped in your league, I think you swoop it up. People are so age
Yeah.
discriminatory, like you said here. We forget Devonte Adams over there. Touchdown numbers or no, was wide receiver 6 overall before the hamstring injury, and he's 33 years old. It's like AJ Brown's not exactly Tyreek Hill. Like he's not relying on blistering pace to keep his game up. Like he's going to be 29. Boo hoo. Like, what, you get 2 to 3 really solid years out of A.J. Brown here, especially if a trade happens. So I think no matter what, you probably just take your value dip here and go swinging if you're a contending roster. But we're going to do one more. We're going to do one more trade here. And before we do so, I'm going to tease it. I'm going to tease it out there with the folks because it is my show. I wanna throw some fun in here. And if you guys know me, I'm a big film guy. So I'm gonna ask Mike here, but I am gonna show you the trade. We're gonna talk about Pearsall and Algier and some folks. So stick around. Don't just shut us off here. But Mike, I'm a big movie guy. I got to talk movies for a second. So if you want to skip this portion of the video, here's your cue to jump 2 minutes ahead. But Desert Island, I'm dropping you tomorrow. You get 4 movies the rest of your life to watch, or just a few movies to watch the rest of your life. You don't have to give me all 4. Where are you at? What are we bringing along? What matters to you?
So does the Lord of the Rings trilogy count as one or
I'll give you
three?
1. That counts as 1. It's a
All
it's a
right,
perfect
loophole.
box set.
Yeah, yeah. I'm bringing that. I love Lord of the Rings. Have fond memories of seeing the first one on Christmas Day in the theaters.
Hell yeah.
Jurassic Park. So I'm
Ooh,
a little bit
yeah,
older, and
yeah,
I'm a '90s kid and a millennial, and so Jurassic Park, I can watch that over and over, no problem. And then a little bit more modern, Interstellar is one of my favorite movies
it's a great
of
shout.
all time. Yeah, I just love how you get terrified of space without the aliens and monsters, right?
Yeah,
It's just like, but the concept of it and I need a little bit longer movies too, right? If I'm on
yeah,
a desert
yeah.
island, I want to be a little bit longer. So yeah, those would be my top four, I think. And
Hell
I'll
yeah,
throw in a funny guilty pleasure '90s, the movie
please.
Con Air. It's a terrible movie, but I mean it's not
Okay,
terrible, but it's a cheesy
yeah.
'90s action film movie. But man, I used to watch that all the time when it came on TV as a kid. So I just, it's nostalgic for me. So
You gotta
watch
you gotta
Nicolas
have
Cage and
those.
Con Air.
Yeah, you got to
Yeah,
have those.
absolutely.
The ones that were on when you were a kid that you've seen it 100 times. It doesn't matter. You're gonna let it run.
Yes. Yeah.
There's countless of them. I love the shout. Actually, you'll find funny. I'm a huge movie guy. I watch a gross amount of movies, and my letterbox is stacked with them. But yeah, I'd been saving. I'm a weird like this. I want the right environment to watch the movies in. And I missed Interstellar back in the day when it came out. I missed it. And so you gave it the shout right there. It's ironic timing. I promise, guys, we didn't plan this again. But I've been waiting, and I've somehow avoided the spoilers on it. And every time I'm on a plane, it's sitting right there in front of me, but I refuse to do it. I won't do it on the tiny screens. I want the good setup. And so my girlfriend and I here, we settled into a new apartment. We got the big TV set up and nice big comfy couch. And so literally yesterday we zoned in, and I did my first Interstellar viewing last night, and
Oh
phenomenal.
wow.
Phenomenal. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm glad I saved a Nolan masterpiece. I've seen every other Christopher Nolan movie, but I want the right environment. You got to lock in. You can't be watching them on these tiny phone screens these days.
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I actually missed it when it first came out too, and they re-released it here in the
Yep.
theater
Mm-hmm.
3 years ago, and I was like, oh, we got to go watch it in the theater. Those are the, like you said, you got to watch it on the right sound system, the right screen size for sure.
Totally. I mean, I was just the re-release. I was at the Lord of the Rings re-release a month ago, and I don't know if you caught that one, but Friday was Fellowship, Saturday was Two Towers, Sunday Return of the King. I spent 12 hours in the movie
Yeah.
theater that weekend. Don't regret even a bit of it. I had to break them up day by day, but for the folks out there that have watched me before and seen the other trade shows, you already know my four. You've heard them. I just like to throw some fun ones at you here, and then I'll get you back to the last trade. But speaking of, we're talking about Interstellar, good sci-fi movie that I feel like is slept on and not a lot of people have seen out there. Got to get out and watch Sunshine. Sunshine. I don't know if anyone's seen it. It's 2007. Cillian Murphy. It's a great movie. Loaded cast. Honestly, you'll go look at it. You'll be like, how have I missed this movie? Chris Evans and a very interesting sci-fi mission to save our sun. It's interesting. And then I'll throw one from this year, but this year I just actually saw the Will Arnett movie last month called Is This Thing On? Really enjoyed it. Nice little sleeper character driven story. I think it was Bradley Cooper's like first directorial debut. It's quite good, quite good. I enjoyed it, but there's some fun movie love for you guys out there if you even care. So thanks for sticking around and humoring me. This will be a staple of the Trade Titans. I don't care if people like it or not. we've got one last football trade though, and I'll get you out of here, Mike. Thanks so much for coming on today, and hopefully you had a good time, and we'll be able to run it a few times this offseason. We've got a long time till football's back on our screens, unfortunately, but we got a 12-team Superflex. We got a PPR format here. It's another Star 10. And a guy that a lot of people are buying right now, myself included, Tyler Algier, kind of been stuck behind Robinson, obviously, but gave you a 1,000-yard season on his rookie contract. Great ball security. Definitely is a red zone threat. You got Tyler Algier in the 202. And then on the other side, you got a guy that, quite frankly, has an army of truthers out there for that I see in the Dynasty community, but Ricky Pearsall. So where are you landing on this one? Give me your thoughts, because my channel sure knows I've got several on this one.
Yeah. Another interesting one, because you're buying now, right? It's March
Mm-hmm.
1st. We're I guess next week will be the legal tampering period, which I never really completely understood. It's like, well,
Yeah.
people are signing, isn't free agency just started? But always a fun, little semantics. Like, what are we saying here? But um, if you're buying right now, like I'm going to take the Algier side in the
Yeah.
202. Pearsall's an interesting one. I did like him as a prospect. I know I think he's a good player. He's had injury concerns. I don't like to label
Hmm.
people as like injury prone, but there are people every now and then that's just like, this guy cannot stay healthy.
Yep.
And the 49ers receiving core is in shambles. I mean, like
Totally.
the only guys that really produced for them last year that are coming back is like Pearsall and Demarcus Robinson. Like Bourne's gone. Ayuk didn't produce for him, but he's probably gone. Juwan Jennings is a free agent. Kittle has the
Yep.
major Achilles injury and stuff. So it's like McCaffrey, I guess I need to include him. You know, McCaffrey and Pearsall and Demarcus Robinson are like really the only guys. Like even Tungus is
Yeah.
like free agent. He's restricted,
Yeah.
um, and so that's the case for Pearsall. And again, this is another trade where it's like I would look at it and it would make me think for it. I would pause. I'm not going to
Hmm.
smash accept on some of the other ones, but and I could a year from now we could be looking dumb at taking this, but you're kind of banking out on Algier kind of potentially getting a starting job somewhere, which he might not, but someone's going to pay him a decent amount of money to at least be the 1B.
Hmm.
So, or at worst, you get a really high end handcuff. So, yeah, I'm going Algier in the 202.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, I couldn't be more with you here. I always had to save this one for last just because my community knows me well, and I can't ever help myself but to throw some Ricky Pearsall slander into a video. You know, it's not just because I'm a Seahawks fan out here. I actually like the man. I thought he had some great highlight, tape college catches and was a fun prospect to watch, but I think the combo of the age, the lack of production, the San Francisco offense in general that clearly is going to run through CMC and George Kittle. And I know George Kittle had the injury. I'm a contrarian here as well with the community, and I think George Kittle's a dog. I think George Kittle's going to be back in week 3. Like, I know that sounds a crazy turnaround, but I just see it. I see the way the man works, and at the bare minimum, I think you're going to get at least half a season out of him. Regardless, like, if you're Ricky Pearsall here, you're 25 years old, you have a September 9th birthday. So when the season kicks off, you're 26. You've never finished in the top 60 wide receivers. Yes, he's had injuries, and it's been unfortunate to watch, but at this point in time, I'm getting out for anything I can get on Ricky Pearsall. I mean, I've been quoted on the channel saying I'll take a 2 3/3 for Ricky Pearsall. Maybe that's an overreaction, but this one you could strip Tyler from the deal and I'd take it. I'd re-roll at the 202. Like I said, I think give me Jacoby Lane, give me Elijah Surratt. Like I'll just take my chance on one of the wide receivers in this class instead of Pearsall, and that's not even before you add in a guy that. Man, I mean, we all talk about these big name free agents. You got Travis Etienne and Kenneth Walker and all these guys, but let's just say, I know Houston needs a back. They need a back. Woody Marks is a fine receiving back as he was in college, but you're not getting anything done between the tackles. But you talk about a 1-2 punch. Like, what if Algier lands in Houston and he's just the guy that's getting the majority of the carries in between the 20s and he's punching in the goal line stuff, and Woody Marks can slide into that receiving back role, and suddenly we got a nice little 50-50, 60-40 split on the Algier side. Like, I just see in my mind's eye somewhere Algier landing and giving us some great dynasty value, and he's a solid runner. I mean, people do forget he's been stuck behind Robinson, but he was a starting back in the league when Atlanta took Bijan. People were like, "What's happening here? You've just had a 1,000-yard back that's like 23 years old. Why are you doing this?" So, I think regardless to say, I'm beating a dead horse for my fans out there, the folks in my community out there. But I'm not a Pearsall guy. I'll take anything I could get. In fact, you could go Pearsall in a third on this side, and I'd still be thrilled to kind of do a little pick swap deal, right? Give me Algier in a second and Pearsall in a third, but
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I would go, straight up 202 for Pearsall. I think I would
yeah,
still lean the Pearsall side, only because, like, again, the opportunity and the
yeah,
offense, and maybe we shouldn't be like, you still have to be good. Like, you
sure,
just can't be like on
yeah,
a good team and stuff like that. But honestly, what did you pay for Pearsall when you drafted him? Him and like Xavier Legette were going mid second round in that draft because it was a deep
yeah,
class,
yeah,
and so like you're I think the philosophy of if you're getting more, and I know not all drafts are equal, but if you're
mm-hmm.
getting more than what you paid for a guy that hasn't really produced, it's probably very smart to be taking that, and you're getting more on top of and Algier on top of it. So
Totally.
yeah, I think it's an easy. And there's a lot of spots that Algier. I mean, Minnesota just announced that they're gonna basically
Hmm.
cut Aaron Jones if someone doesn't trade for him. What if he goes there or
Yeah.
Kansas City or
I always laugh when teams do that, by the
Detroit?
way. I saw the bulletin this morning too, but it's like, whenever that news comes out, no one's incentivized to give you anything for him. They can renegotiate the contract and get him cheaper in a week. I mean, it's like that's just the most useless news post of all time. It's basically just announcing, like you said, like Aaron Jones getting cut next week. Like that's the situation. No one's taking on that $14 million cap hit for a 31-year-old running back when you could get him for vet minimum a week from now. It's just like, that's not happening.
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah,
is kind of funny. Like you're showing your hands in poker, like
of
and
course.
saying what you're gonna be doing.
Yeah, I mean, I always laugh too. Is like I think you probably get this as well, man. You touch the real NFL so often, but I think so many of these guys. Again, I'm not throwing any shade out there or naming names, but there's so many fantasy talking heads, that are like, oh, Brian Thomas Jr. is going to get traded or whatever. I was saying a week ago on the last trade show, I'm like, no one's trading for Brian Thomas Jr. guys. The news comes out yesterday or whatever. The Jags are seeking minimum 2 first-round picks for BTJ. It's like, dude, no one. First off, no one was even sending a single first. Like you understand how rare it is to trade like first round picks for receivers, especially
Yeah,
when they're not on like the last year of their deal anyway. Like the AJ Brown is like I looked too, and I looked it up. The history of NFL wide receivers that have been traded not on the final year of their rookie deal, like when they're about to negotiate a contract, that were first round wide receivers, is like next to zero. Like it basically doesn't happen, first of all. And second of all, it's like, just think about the landing spots out there. I mean, outside of the 49ers, which you mentioned, right? That's like one team in the NFC that needs wide receiver help. Outside of that, it's like the Bills, the Patriots, like these are the teams that need wide receiver help. You're not Baltimore. You're not sending him to another AFC team when you're the Jags, and you potentially, if you do send him away and he does have the career revival, you now got to go through him to get to the Super Bowl. It's just like from an NFL GM perspective, you're like, he's on a rookie deal. There's you have to be blown away by some deal in order to do it, rather than just let him stay on your roster and use a few years of production out of him, especially when the Jags, they think they're contenders. I mean, they
yeah.
made the playoffs, right? So
100%. I mean, we like to create these fantasies in our
yeah,
because we play fantasy or you play Madden and
yeah,
stuff. It's like, yeah, Madden you can do that. It's like, yeah, why are the Jags gonna trade him? I don't
yeah,
know. Like you said, they have to be blown away. And Mac Jones is another one. It's like,
exactly.
why would
That's
the
a perfect
49ers trade
example.
Mac Jones? They're paying him nothing almost, like the 3 million or something. They obviously can win with him. They're a Super Bowl team, and
Ugh.
yeah, like they would have to be blown away
No,
to trade Mac Jones,
my
especially to an NFC team.
That's a great shout. And I think like it's a great caution for the people watching out here and stuff, because I mentioned I'm in the 16 team startup draft, and we just finished it. But like I mentioned, it's super flex. So the quarterbacks definitely start to run. And, by the 7th round, all the quarterbacks are gone, every single one of them, including Malik Willis is off the board, even the potential ones. But this is where it's a good reminder. And I just wanted to throw in here for anyone that stuck around, like never let the board play you. Never let the board play you. Never let these hype trains play you. I watched Mac Jones go like right after that in the 8th round of this startup draft. And we're still talking like, Cortland Sutton's on the board, and like there's all these players that are like genuine dynasty pieces. And it's like you said, I think Mac Jones will be a starter in this league. I've gone on record saying it. I agree. I do think he'll get a little Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, career revival, second chance somewhere. But the Niners have no reason to trade him after Brock Purdy just went through an injury-riddled season and they think they're contending. Like, they have him on a cheap veteran deal. They'll just wait a year. And so it's like these people that are spending premium capital on Mac Jones right now are sending, early seconds for Mac Jones today. Like, you're waiting at least 18 months from now until that becomes anything for you. And I just caution people, like don't fall into these traps. I'm even on the train now that I think the Malik Willis thing has gone way too far. I think, sorry, we're running way long here, but I'm going to give you one more chance here. I got to just hear your opinion on it. But like, this man's played 6 games. He wasn't a good prospect coming out of college. And that's not to say that like guys that aren't generational prospects can't make it in the league. But like, he started 6 games, and most of the time he's kind of just been piecing it together, and he keeps his, pass attempts way low. He's mainly a runner. Like, I understand that there's some upside there, but like I said, he went in the 7th round of a Dynasty Superflex startup the other day for me. I see people now moving late first for Malik Willis, assuming he's going to get a deal. I mean, sure, could he probably get a deal somewhere somewhere? Yeah, like now they're saying it's gonna be in the range of 30 million, but like, is this? I'm not saying it's gonna happen. I hope he does well in the league, but like, is this not just a prime candidate of a guy that's gonna go somewhere, play 8 games, and be replaced by a backup like a season later, like a journeyman a season later? I don't know. Are we? So this market seems kind of crazy to me. Give me your final thoughts on that, and I'll release you.
Yeah, no, I do think like late first or something. If I have Willis and someone's offering me that, like smash,
Mhm.
accept. Will I throw a late second in a super flex league for Malik Willis if I need a quarterback? Sure, because I do think he's going to get at least the chance to compete.
Sure.
And he has a little bit of that fantasy cheat code where like he could, I think it was
He can run.
4 games, 5 games, yeah, 5 games that he's played over the last 2 years. 4 of them it was like 60 yards or 45 yards and more rushing. Like he can run, which is great. But you also have to be on the team that's going to allow you to run the ball 15 times. Like the Packers were a good team, and they were winning those games, so he didn't have to throw the ball. You assume you're going to go to a bad team. Not all teams that don't have a quarterback are bad necessarily, but most of them are. And so, yeah, I think the hype's getting a little bit out of hand. I think you should be selling them for that if you can.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it also is a potential starting quarterback, and there is value in that, and there's value in like, what the mystery of this player, what can he be and stuff. But I do caution people with backups. Like backups can look good for 2 games, like they can look very good. But as soon as you start getting tape on them and defenses adjust to them, that's why over the course of like a 16-game season, you don't want your backup playing, and they don't do well. But we see it all the time. The backups come in. It's like, oh yeah, Jake Browning. He looks good for a game or two.
Brock Osweiler. Brock Osweiler.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah,
you got to be cautious about that. So
yeah,
I think the hype's getting a little bit too high.
Nah, I'm with you there. All right, folks, if you stuck around, we greatly appreciate you. We ran you along today. Hopefully you got a lot of Dynasty value out of this conversation, though, as I had an absolute blast breaking it down with Mike here, and thrilled to have you on the channel, man. We'll have all your stuff linked as well on this video, so guys, do not forget, hop on over, drop a subscription over to Victory Formation, follow what Mike's doing over there. He can help you out plenty with everything going on. As I said, thrilled having you on again, man. I hope we get to talk ball sometime soon in the future. Got any final words for the people as we send them into their Dynasty offseason here?
No.
Lovely. Thank you, guys.
Just that
No, just you what? Finish her up.
Oh, yeah, just appreciate being on, and I look forward to being on more and collabing and
hell yeah.
And it's gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah, we got a lot of time before football, so
yeah, we got tons of time. See, you hear that, guys? If you're a Dynasty creator out there, hit our line. Like, let's get some convos going. We all talk behind the camera alone too much, so hopefully that's what you're getting some from Trade Titans here. A little cross pollination between a lot of guys that are all some Dynasty degens. So thanks again to Mike. Thanks to you guys for watching and supporting and everything going on. Don't forget to click the link in the description to join the Discord for your chance to submit trades for the future installments of Dynasty Trade Titans. And hop on over to dynastypricecheck.com, as you see in the top corner, for some awesome Dynasty tools, including the Dynasty Price Exchange, your Dynasty Decoder, and all my rankings for the offseason. Thank you guys for coming along, and we will see you in the next one. Cheers.